Hello YouTube, welcome back to Bison Workshop. I'm Bob, and today we're gonna redo Dodge's idea of the shifting on this transfer case. Now I'm going to start you off with a little bit of history so that you guys know what's going on and be able to follow what I'm doing here. As everybody knows, I was supposed to put a transfer case in a friend of mine's truck. Well, we went to the junkyard, we got a transfer case, and we put it in yesterday. Alright, so now let's back up a little bit. Sometime, I think last year, or it's been a while, he took it to somebody who's supposed to be a friend of his, and they told him that the transfer case was trash and that he needed a new transfer case. And the guy was going to keep it for a couple weeks, or a week or so, maybe a couple weeks. Well, he didn't want to wait that long, so he decided to just go ahead and get another transfer case and then have me put it in for it. Well, the guy told him that the transfer case was trash. And what he said was happening was the transfer, every time he put it in four-wheel drive, it would lam and bang. It would bang all the time. So he said it had a god-awful noise on it. So when he got it back, I didn't find out until today that the light, even the selector light, wasn't working after that guy looked at it. So I'm kind of wondering, okay, what's going on with this guy, and why is the selector switch not working all of a sudden? So I'm wondering if maybe this guy wasn't trying to scam him by telling him it needed a transfer case, when in fact it did not, and all he was going to do was just fix something simple and put it out the door and get paid for putting a transfer case in. I don't know. Please, I hope to God there ain't nobody out there like that. Because if there is, we're all in, well, I know there is. So I need to back up on that one, don't I? Anyway, regardless of what's going on with this guy, I'm going on information from Terry, and Terry's going on information from this guy. So I didn't question it because Terry seemed to think that the guy was upstanding citizen and wouldn't do something like that to him. Well, the fact remains, I took this apart yesterday. The transfer case, there's nothing wrong with it. And we went and tested a bunch of stuff today because yesterday after we got done, he still didn't have no indicator lights showing that it was in four-wheel drive or not. Well, today he brings it back and we go and do a bunch of testing, and the plug that plugs onto this motor here, let me put you guys down here. Now, the plug on this, I unplugged it and tested it, and it had 12 volts on both sides. There's only 2 pins. You would think that being this is a 12 volt motor that it would have one ground and one neutral, or one positive, unless this motor gets the ground from this and there's actually 2 hots. I don't know, but the fact remains it had 2 hot wires on this plug. Now I didn't test any of this. This here's the switch that goes right here. Somehow, like that right there. That one's got 6 pins on it. But we didn't test any of that. And I didn't have no pinched wires, and I knew I wasn't going to have no pinched wires. So basically what I'm going to do, we're going to turn this into, we're going to make an adapter that mounts to this, that will take the place of this and be able to put a shifter inside the cab of the truck instead of this frickin' junk ass electronic switching unit. Anybody that's that lazy that they can't reach down and pull a lever, if that's too hard to do, then they need to quit driving, because that's terrible. So I'm going to take this and we're going to make an adapter to turn this into a shifter. So I've taken this and I've set it on here, and I set this underneath of it just like so. Let me turn that around there. I set that on there, and because it's still not level, I had to put a washer under it, and I lifted that up to make that as level as possible. Alright, so then I traced all the way around it, and then I traced this hole, and then I traced these holes. Alright, so we've got it close enough now that we can start working with it. So now, to get center of this, I just drew a line across here from corner to corner. So now we know where center is going to be. And we're going to cut this out the same size as this right here. So basically what I did was took a washer. Oh, what did I do with that washer? Well, it don't matter. We can pretend this is the washer. I took a washer that fit all the way around that, and then I set it on there and traced it out. So this will be getting cut out. So that's why I put the center mark there, so that we can get that centered. Alright, and then we'll drill these holes out for the bolts, and then we'll cut the shape out. Now we don't actually have to cut this part here out. We can just go straight across there. We really don't need, we just need to bring that up there to that. And just round that off right there. Same thing with this. We'll just bring that over and round that off. And we'll do the same thing here. We'll just bring that over just like that. And we're just going to take this and bring it straight down just like that. And then we'll round that off. So actually, no, here's what we're going to do right here. We're going to take and do that right there. Alright, so now we've got the shape that we want. Now before we get started, I would like to punch those to make sure that they don't get erased. But before we punch those, we're going to do some measuring to make sure that we are center to center. Alright, we're going to measure that one. And we are correct. So now we're going to measure from that one to this one. And that one's correct. Let me redo this one. Alright, then we're going to measure this one. And make sure that one's correct. And it is. So now we're going to punch those. We're going to punch these. and then we're going to punch that center. Alright, so now, while this is in square form, we're just going to take and cut that off right there, just straight across. Because we're still going to want to put this in the mill. I don't know yet how we're going to do this. I may drill this out as big as I can and then put it in the mill. That's why I want to keep it square. And then we will take our boring bar, because I think I got an inch drill bit, it's the biggest one I got, and we'll just bore this out until we get out to the outer edge. Once we've got these holes drilled and this hole drilled, and we've got it mounted on the piece, or on the transfer case, then we will take and cut our shape out. So that's basically going to mount right there on there, and that's going to give us something to work with. Actually, it's going to go like that right there. Now I'm hoping that in the place of where this motor would be is going to be where we put our pivot pin for our shifter. We hope. So basically what I'd like to try to do is, let me draw that in ink so that you guys can see what I've got going on. This is our original shape. That's our original shape. You guys can see that. And then we're going to take and change that shape, and we're going to cut this straight across here. I know that's not a straight line. We're going to cut this straight across here, and then we're going to cut that straight down there like that, and just round that off. And we're not going to cut any of this out. It's going to remain straight. Alright, here is the hole that we're going to bore out of it. Here's the center of that hole, and then here is your bolting holes. And then I'll make the shifter handle that comes up, that we use rebar. Nah, I'm just kidding. I do have this stock right here that I can make a shifter out of. Yes, it's a little big, but that's alright. We can make it a little big. That's our prerogative. So I do have some of that that's long, and all I'd have to do would be turn one end of it down so that I can make a tap it, or thread it for a shifter knob. And yes, I'll make the shifter knob too. But I think we can turn this into a manual transfer case. Now once I've got all this made and mounted to this, you guys got the idea of what we're going to do. It's a damn shame that didn't have a hole in the end of it and threaded. But in order for me to do, we want to do this so that all we have to do is unbolt this and bolt ours into place of it. So we're gonna try to make a kit that will mount to this and take the place of that, and you'll have a manual shift. Now this requires us to drill or cut a hole in the floor. He's going to have to get him a boot, and I'll make everything else. So let me get my stuff together. It's a good thing I have a transfer case here that I can use as a template to make our parts. So once I've got it made to fit this one, all I got to do is just hit pull in. I'll take the old one off, put this one back on it, cut the hole in the floor, and put a shifter on it. So, you know, there's a good possibility that I can take and let's pretend this is our pivot. We can make a pivot right there and put our shifter here. But we got to try to stay away from this because you got that thing on there too, which is this. Yeah, we gotta work around this too. Yeah, I painted it. So see, we got to work around that. So this has to be installed while we're making our parts so that we know to stay away from that. So let's put our plate in there. Alright, so we're still far enough away from it. We might be able to get away without this. We're still going to need a plate, just not that big a plate. We may be able to come down here and mount our shifter there. We're just making that our shifter. Well, I'll get everything together and how we're going to do this, and we'll be back. Alright guys, we've got the plate cut, and we had to cut that corner out, but I did go ahead and mill this out first. I just used a hole saw to cut that out. So now we've got this set up. So now we need to figure out how we're going to adapt to this. So I'm thinking some kind of a piece that fits in here that's machined to go over top of this, but at the same time I want to be able to seal this. So we're going to have to figure out a way so that whatever we put in here that goes on this to make this so that we can actually turn it with a lever is make a piece that's round that goes over top of that, and we'll accept an O-ring like this in there. Maybe, I don't know. There is a seal, there is an O-ring on that, but we want to make sure that it stays pushed in and doesn't come out on the flat part of this shaft. So yeah, we got to make sure that it doesn't leak either. So I guess my next thing would be to make something that will go in here only problem is I've got this a little off center we may have to oblong these holes downward so that I can move that up and down, because I've got it too low. This way it's correct, you know, this way, but it needs to go up in order to be centered, to have this in the center of this. So I'm going to oblong these holes right here, and we'll be back. Alright guys, here is our plate that we're going to try to work with, and that will mount in there just like that. And we've made bushings or spacers, and basically the reason I made them spacers is because I want these to be the same thickness as this. The reason being is so that you can actually use the same bolts that came out of that piece. So you don't have to go searching for shorter bolts. You got a spacer that comes with this kit. So we'll bolt that up on there, just like so. And I oblonged the hole so that will be adjustable up and down. Simply because once I get that in place, I will probably weld these washer or spacers to this bracket. But I want to wait until I've got this centered first. So once I've got the bushing made that I'm going to use in here, that's going to contact this and act as a socket. So basically we're just going to make a socket that fits this, and then once we've got our socket made, we're hoping this is going to work right. We'll find out. But this is to start with. So we may change our mind 50 times by the time this is said and done. So I'm going to call this the plate and the spacers, and call this an end. My battery's getting ready to die on me. So there you have the first step in trying to turn this into a manual transfer case. I think this will work. It's just I got to get all my ducks in a row and make sure that everything's going to work okay. So we just make a socket for it. And you guys probably got noise in the camera because I had my charger hooked up to it. I was getting ready to do my outro, and the damn light went out, and I said, son of a... Well, you know what I said. So that'll end the plate and the bushings or spacers for the manual transfer case build. So basically we're going to take an electronic transfer case and turn it into a manual transfer case, which is what they should have done to begin with. I mean, they're trying to rely on electricity, and electricity fails on everybody more times than any. You know, electronic fails before manual will. Manual, as long as you can move, you can switch it. Electronics, you got a fuse that blows, you got a wire that can burn, you got something that just blows out. It's too much. Bullshit. So we're going to take this back to basics. I don't know if it'll work, but we're going to give her a hell of a shot. So Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. You guys have a good one. Later.